My name is Mia Torres, a 15-year-old sophomore at Pinewood High in the quiet, pine-scented outskirts of Portland, Oregon. It's 12:47 p.m. on Thursday, October 9th, 2025, and as I sit here typing this, the weight of the past 5 months presses down on me like a storm cloud refusing to break. My dad, Carlos Torres, a rugged 42-year-old construction foreman with calloused hands and a heart too big for his own good, always told me to stand tall and fight for what's right. He never imagined I'd have to wage a war against the very place meant to protect me, my school. The mornings in our town smell of damp earth and fresh-cut timber, a peaceful contrast to the chaos that erupted when 3 senior boys turned my life into a nightmare I can't wake from. Before that day, Pinewood High felt like every small-town school, buzzing hallways, football posters, and the same cafeteria smell that clung to your clothes. Now, every creak of a locker door feels like a gunshot. Every whisper sounds like my name. Teachers look away. Friends keep their distance. Even the air feels heavier. I used to dream about college, art school maybe. Now, I just dream about breathing without fear. And somehow, this page has become the only place that still listens. If you're still listening, we want to sincerely thank you for spending your time with us. Truly means a lot. We'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments and let's see how far this message has reached. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I highly recommend doing it now so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. These aren't just ordinary stories. They're filled with meaningful life lessons that can inspire, teach, and stay with you long after the video ends. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. The shadows begin. It all started when I began my freshman year last May, a shy girl with a backpack full of dreams and a nervous smile that barely held together the fear of being new. Pinewood High was supposed to be a place where I could start fresh, where I'd finally find my rhythm after years of moving from town to town with Dad's construction jobs. Instead, it became the stage for my unraveling. That's when I first noticed Ethan Brooks, Liam Hayes, and Noah Parker, the golden boys of Pinewood. Teen, confident, and untouchable. They were football stars with chiseled jaws, varsity jackets, and the kind of swagger that made teachers laugh off their arrogance. Everyone adored them. But from the first day I caught Ethan's eyes on me, dark, amused, assessing, I felt something cold creep into my chest. It wasn't admiration. It was warning. First, it seemed harmless. A few lingering stares in the hallway, a whistle when I bent to grab a dropped pen, the hiss of my name wrapped in crude jokes. I'd hear them at lunch, laughing about my curves, mimicking my voice in high-pitched tones. Notes began appearing in my locker, sketched stick figures, hearts, and worse. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was teenage teasing. But it wasn't. It was a hunt, slow and deliberate. By June, it got worse. I'd walk home clutching my books so tight the spines left marks on my palms. Their footsteps followed, steady, taunting, too close. I'd hear Liam's laugh drift through the air and my heart would race. Sometimes they'd call my name in sing-song voices, pretending it was a joke, but the malice was clear. One night, as the streetlight flickered outside my window, I saw 3 silhouettes standing just beyond the fence. Their faces were shadowed, but their stillness terrified me. I remember pulling the curtains shut and sitting on my bed, trembling until dawn. The next morning, I told Dad. My voice shook, and I could barely breathe between words. His eyes darkened, anger and fear mixing into something primal. "No one scares my girl," he said, his tone like gravel. He took off early from work the next day and went straight to the school. I watched from the car as he marched through the office doors, broad-shouldered and determined. For the first time in weeks, I thought maybe things would change. But when he came out, his jaw was tight. "Ms. Rivera says she'll handle it," he muttered. Ms. Rivera, the school counselor, a 50-year-old ex-teacher known for her sharp glasses and sharper tongue, called me in later that day. Her office smelled like coffee and dust. She listened for exactly 1 minute before sighing. "Teen boys will be boys, Mia." They're just horsing around. Don't give them the reaction they want." Her words burned. I wanted to scream, "They're not playing." But the lump in my throat wouldn't let me. I walked out feeling hollow, like a ghost haunting a place that refused to see me. After that, things spiraled. Ethan started taking pictures of me during class, pretending to accidentally leave his flash on. Liam once grabbed my backpack and emptied it onto the bleachers, laughing as my notebooks splattered into the mud. Noah, the quietest of the three, was the worst. He never spoke, just watched, his eyes cold, detached, almost entertained. When they cornered me behind the gym one afternoon, one of them snatched my phone. They scrolled through my photos, selfies, pictures of Dad, of Sophie and me laughing at the diner. Their laughter echoed as they passed it around, mocking every image. When they finally threw it back, I couldn't even look at them. I just ran until I couldn't breathe. That night, I wrote everything down, dates, times, details. My hand shook so badly that the ink smeared. The next morning, I went to Principal Hargrove, a 55-year-old ex-football coach with a booming voice and a tie that was always slightly crooked. His office walls were covered in trophies, symbols of the same team those boys played for. He skimmed my written notes, barely glancing at me. "We can't police every teenage crush, Mia," he said finally, setting the paper aside. "Talk to your dad if it bothers you." I stared at him, speechless. A crush? My entire body felt cold. I wanted to ask him what kind of crush left bruises on your spirit, but his eyes had already drifted toward the clock. His lunch break was coming. When I left his office, I felt something inside me break quietly, like a glass cracking under pressure. I stopped reporting. I stopped believing anyone would care. Every day after that, I'd sit in class counting the seconds until the final bell, praying they'd get bored and move on. But they didn't. My best friend Sophie started walking me home after school. She was small but fierce, with messy curls and chipped nail polish, always ready to throw a punch if she had to. "Ignore them," she'd say, gripping my arm when I froze at the sound of their voices. "They're just cowards." But even she couldn't shield me from their growing aggression. They'd rev their car engine when they saw us, blaring music so loud the ground trembled. They threw paper balls at me in class, whispered things when teachers turned away. Sophie filed a complaint once too, but the system that failed me failed her too. By July, I stopped sitting by the window at night. I stopped wearing bright clothes. I even changed my route home, taking the longer path by the woods where no one would see me cry. I used to think shadows meant safety, that darkness could hide me from their eyes. But soon I realized the shadows weren't hiding me anymore. They were watching too. The breaking point. Last Monday, October 6th, began like any other day. The air outside was crisp, brushing against my cheeks as I walked through Pinewood's gates. The sky was a soft, pale gray, the kind that always made the pine trees look darker, sharper. Inside the cafeteria, the usual chatter buzzed around me. Sneakers squeaking, trays clattering, someone laughing too loud at a joke I didn't hear. I sat alone by the window, eating my peanut butter sandwich and rereading a half-finished history essay. For a brief, fragile moment, it felt almost normal. Then, at 12:38 p.m., everything shattered. My phone vibrated in my hand once, twice, then nonstop. I glanced down, and my reflection blurred behind a stream of frantic messages. But they weren't from anyone else. They were from me, drafts I'd typed seconds earlier with trembling fingers, my own desperate words filling the screen as if I were reliving the panic while reading it. "They're in the girls' bathroom. They're breaking into my stall. Dad, help me, I'm so scared." Because that's where I was, on the third floor, huddled in the last stall. The walls were cold, the air thick with the sharp chemical sting of bleach. I could hear footsteps echoing down the tiled hallway, 3 sets, heavy, deliberate. My pulse thudded in my ears. Then came Ethan's voice, low and mocking, slithering through the gap between the stall door and the floor. "Come out, Mia, we just want to talk." Liam's laugh followed, cruel and careless. "She's scared. Look at her shaking." The metal latch rattled violently as he jiggled it, the door trembling under his hand. I pressed my knees to my chest, holding my breath. My fingers fumbled over my phone, typing as fast as I could. "Please hurry," I texted, barely able to see the screen through the blur of tears. Then came Noah's laugh, that slow, chilling sound that made my stomach twist. "Don't cry, Torres," he said softly. "We're not gonna hurt you. Not if you behave." That word, behave, sent something electric through me. I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my throat. The handle shook again, harder this time. The metal groaned, threatening to snap. At that very moment, miles away, my dad was at a construction site, sweat on his forehead, hammer in hand, when my message lit up his cracked phone screen. He didn't hesitate. His hammer clattered to the ground as he ripped off his gloves and sprinted to his truck. He dialed the school while running. Call connected after 3 rings. "Pinewood High, how may I assist?" Came the flat, monotone voice of Mrs. Ellen Grant, the school secretary, a woman known more for her coffee mug collection than her sense of urgency. "My daughter, Mia Torres," Dad shouted, his voice cracking with panic. "She's in the 3rd-floor bathroom. 3 boys are breaking into her stall. They're attacking her." There was silence. Then a slow, detached response. "Which bathroom, sir?" "Principal is unavailable at the moment. He's in a meeting." Dad's knuckles turned white around the steering wheel. "I don't care where he is. Find her now." "I'm sorry, sir, but protocol forbids me from leaving my desk." "I'll note this for Mr. Hargrove's return," she replied, her voice mechanical, as if she were reading off a policy sheet. Dad's roar echoed through the receiver before the line went dead. His truck fishtailed onto the main road, tires screeching, engine growling as he sped through yellow lights and stop signs. The world blurred around him, construction sites, coffee shops, mailboxes, each one a reminder of how far away he still was. Meanwhile, I could hear their breaths on the other side of the stall. The smell of their cologne mixed with the bleach until I felt dizzy. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor. I tried calling 911, but my voice wouldn't work. My thumb hovered over the screen, shaking. The door rattled again. "Almost there," Ethan said, and his voice was smiling. I could hear the faint crackle of wood in my mind, Dad's hands gripping the steering wheel, his heart racing faster than his truck's engine. He kept imagining me, small and terrified, in a place that was supposed to be safe. Every red light felt like a betrayal. When he finally turned onto Maplewood Avenue, Pinewood's gray brick building came into view, looming against the cloudy sky. He slammed the brakes, jumped out, and sprinted toward the main entrance, shouting my name as he burst through the doors. But by then, inside that bathroom, my world had already tilted into something unrecognizable. The last sound I remember before everything went dark wasn't a scream or a crash. It was Noah's whisper, soft, almost amused. "See? Nobody's coming for you." And in that moment, I realized he was right. The race against time. 8 minutes later, Dad's old Chevy skidded to a stop in front of Pinewood High, the tires shrieking as he left the truck half-parked across the bus lane, horns still blaring. He didn't bother to kill the engine. He just ran. His boots slammed against the pavement, then the polished linoleum floors, echoing through the empty hallways like thunder. Behind the reception desk, Mrs. Grant looked up in shock, her hand frozen midair with a coffee cup. "Sir, you can't," she started, but Dad was already gone, sprinting toward the stairwell, his voice booming through the corridor. "Mia, I'm here. Hold on." Inside the bathroom, chaos was already unraveling. Ethan had me pinned against the cold stall wall, his breath hot and sour against my cheek. Liam yanked at my jacket until the zipper snapped, fabric tearing beneath his grip. Noah, calm and smiling, cracked open a can of soda and dumped it over my head. The syrupy liquid ran down my face, stinging my eyes, gluing strands of hair to my skin. They laughed, a sound I'll never forget. I screamed until my throat burned, but Noah shoved a towel into my mouth, the rough fabric cutting against my lips. The muffled sound of my father's voice came from the other side of the door, desperate, wild, breaking. "Mia, answer me." He slammed his shoulder into the door once, twice, then again, harder. But the reinforced steel didn't give. It was the same door the school had proudly installed after a lockdown drill last year, strong enough to withstand an intruder. They called it safety. Now it was my prison. Dad stumbled back, his breath ragged, and grabbed a chair from the hallway. He swung it at the door, wood cracking, splinters flying, the sound echoing through the corridor like gunshots, till the lock held. He shouted my name again, his voice raw with fear. Then he saw the fire extinguisher mounted on the wall. In one motion, he ripped it down and slammed it against the handle. The metallic clang reverberated through the empty building. Once, twice, again. Each strike was a heartbeat, a father's plea turned into violence. Sweat dripped into his eyes. Blood smeared across the red metal as his palms split open from the impact. "Give me the key," he roared when he saw Mrs. Grant rushing up the stairs, red-faced, clutching her phone. "Sir, you're destroying school property." She panted. "I'm calling security. Give me the damn key." Her hand trembled. "Only Mr. Hargrove has it. He's in a meeting." For a heartbeat, the world froze. Then Dad bolted. He tore down the hallway, his boots pounding until he reached the principal's office. Inside, Mr. Hargrove sat comfortably behind his desk, scrolling on his phone, half a turkey sandwich in hand. Dad pounded on the glass pane so hard the wall shook. "My daughter's being attacked. Open the door." Principal glanced up, irritation flickering across his face. He raised one hand, showing 5 fingers, and mouthed, "5 minutes." Then he looked back down at his screen. Something inside Dad snapped. He grabbed the nearest chair and hurled it through the window. The glass shattered, exploding into the air. Shards sliced into his arms as he reached through the jagged frame, unlocking the door from the inside. Mr. Hargrove stumbled back, eyes wide. "You're insane," he yelled. But Dad didn't hear him. He was already tearing through desk drawers, keys clattering until he found a ring marked "Facility." The security guard, Officer Dan, a burly man with a buzz cut and a radio clipped to his belt, lunged forward. "Sir, stop." He grabbed Dad's arm, but Dad shoved him off so hard the guard stumbled against the wall. Blood dripping from his arms, keys jingling in his fist, Dad bolted back toward the 3rd floor. His breath came in ragged bursts. Every step echoed with one thought pounding in his chest. "Please let me be in time." The aftermath. By the time Dad reached the bathroom, the door was hanging open, its latch bent, metal scarred from his desperate strikes. The boys were gone, their laughter still echoing faintly down the stairwell, blending into the hum of the school's ventilation system. The smell of bleach lingered, sharp and metallic, but beneath it was something worse: fear, sweat, and the sticky sweetness of spilled soda. I was on the floor, curled into myself, trembling. My skirt was torn at the hem, and a dark bruise had begun to bloom across my cheek, the skin hot and throbbing. My hair clung to my face, matted with syrup and tears. When Dad burst in, his breath caught in his chest. For a moment, he couldn't move. Then he was on his knees beside me, his voice breaking as he said my name again and again, as if repeating it could undo what had happened. He wrapped me in his jacket, the one that always smelled faintly of sawdust and motor oil, and dialed 911 with bloodied hands. "My daughter's been attacked. Send help, please, right now." Before he could even finish, Mr. Hargrove stormed in, his tie SQ, face red with fury. "You assaulted me. Look at my office, Torres," he shrieked, gesturing wildly toward the hall. "You broke school property. You'll be arrested for this." Behind him, Officer Dan arrived, phone raised, filming everything: the broken door, Dad's bleeding arms, me shaking under the oversized jacket. Camera caught it all, but his lens stayed fixed on Dad, not the blood or the terror in my eyes. Mr. Hargrove paced in circles, ranting about violent intruders and irresponsible parenting. Not once did he mention the 3 boys who'd fled minutes earlier. When the police finally arrived, 4 minutes later that felt like an eternity, 2 officers went straight for Dad. "Sir, calm down," one said, grabbing his shoulder. The other stepped closer, voice clipped and professional. "We'll talk at the station. My daughter was attacked," Dad pleaded, his voice cracking. "The boys, Ethan Brooks, Liam Hayes, Noah Parker, they—" "Sir," the officer interrupted firmly, "please don't interfere with our process." As they led him away, paramedics rushed in, the wheels of their gurney clattering over the tiles. One knelt beside me, a woman with gentle eyes and a steady voice. "You're safe now, sweetheart. We've got you." She dabbed at my sticky hair with a towel, covering me with a blanket as another medic called for saline and gloves. Dad, still in cuffs, turned his head to look at me one last time before they led him down the hall. His eyes, red, wild, and broken, locked with mine. "I'm here, Mija," he said softly, voice trembling. "I'm right here." But I wasn't sure I believed him, because at that moment I didn't feel anywhere. I felt gone. They wheeled me out past classroom doors where students peeked out, holding up their phones. Some whispered. Some recorded. To them it was a scene, a spectacle. My humiliation was just another upload waiting for views. At the police station, Dad's hands were cleaned, his wounds wrapped, and his mugshot taken under a flickering fluorescent light. The officer on duty asked routine questions, name, date of birth, occupation, without looking up. His answers came out mechanical, each syllable weighted with disbelief. When they handed him a phone, he used his one call to reach the hospital. "Is my daughter okay?" he asked. The nurse on the line hesitated. "I'm sorry, sir. We can't release patient details over the phone." The hospital, I lay on an exam table under bright lights. My clothes had been placed in paper bags marked evidence. A victim advocate, Ms. Carter, sat beside me. She was around 40, her presence calm and steady, her eyes kind in a way that almost hurt to look at. She explained every step of the SANE exam, each swab, each photograph, each sterile click of the camera documenting bruises and cuts I didn't want to see. "This isn't your fault," she whispered more than once. I nodded, but inside I didn't believe her. Every flash of the camera felt like a punishment, a reminder of what had been taken. The exam took 3 hours. By the end, I was exhausted, hollowed out, my body no longer feeling like my own. Dad sat in a holding cell the whole time, pacing, waiting, helpless. The fight for justice. They released Dad later that evening with a citation for property damage. The desk sergeant handed him paperwork and said, almost casually, "Mr. Hargrove hasn't pressed assault charges yet." Dad didn't wait to argue. He grabbed his jacket and raced to the hospital. When he finally reached my room on the 3rd floor, I was sitting upright, clean but distant. My eyes felt heavy, my voice gone. When he reached out, I flinched, not because I feared him, but because every touch still felt like danger. "Don't touch me," I whispered, my voice trembling. "But please don't leave." He nodded. He didn't move closer, just pulled a chair beside my bed and sat quietly, his hand hovering near mine but never crossing the space between us. The steady beep of the heart monitor filled the silence. Later that night, Detective Laura Hayes, a sharp 38-year-old woman with a clipped tone and tired eyes, entered with her notepad. She interviewed us separately, her questions precise. She asked Dad for timestamps from my texts, and he recited them by heart. His voice was calm, but the rage beneath it pulsed like electricity. When she finished, she looked at me and said, "We'll find them, Mia." I promise. But I'd already learned what promises were worth inside those walls. A hospital discharge planner came next, handing us pamphlets, coping with trauma, safety after assault, finding counseling resources. Her lips moved, but her words blurred together as my mind replayed every second of the attack. When we finally left, the sun was setting, turning the sky a bruised purple. The ride home was silent except for the hum of the truck engine. At home, Dad checked every lock twice, then wedged a chair beneath the back door. He pulled the curtains tight, though it was still daylight outside. My phone buzzed on the counter, 14 missed calls from the school. Dad picked it up, stared at the screen, and quietly deleted them all. I stood in my doorway, staring at my bed. The blankets were neat, untouched, waiting. But I couldn't go there. I curled up on the couch instead, wrapping myself in a blanket that smelled like detergent and safety. The next morning, the school released an official statement. An unfortunate incident occurred yesterday involving a parent who forcibly entered school grounds, causing property damage and disrupting the learning environment. No mention of the assault. No mention of the boys. Online, the comments poured in. Crazy parent. He should be in jail. This generation's so dramatic. Dad's boss emailed, calling for a meeting with HR over conduct unbecoming of company standards. He faced a 2-week unpaid suspension, though they allowed him to keep health insurance for my therapy. He spent the rest of the day building a timeline, every message, every call, every unanswered plea, while I sat at the kitchen table staring at my untouched cereal. But that night, Detective Hayes called. She'd secured hallway footage from a camera outside the third-floor girls' bathroom, showing Ethan, Liam, and Noah entering at 12:47 p.m., exactly when my texts went out. For the first time in months, Dad didn't just cry. He exhaled. 'Cause finally, someone believed us. Uncovering the truth. Truth didn't come easily. It fought to stay buried beneath layers of silence and denial. But justice, I learned, has its own heartbeat. It began when Mr. Evans, the janitor, a soft-spoken man in his 60s, walked into the police station with trembling hands and a folded note. He confessed he'd seen Ethan and Liam taking a key from the office supply drawer that morning. He hadn't spoken sooner because, in his words, nobody listens to the janitor. His courage cracked the case wide open. Detective Hayes collected more proof. My frantic texts, Dad's time-stamped call logs, and the SANE report, a sterile document that made my stomach twist each time I saw my name beside the words evidence of trauma. Yet, those pages were my voice when fear still stole my words. The school tried to bury the truth again, issuing vague safety measures. But when another girl's lawyer came forward, her story eerily similar to mine, Detective Hayes connected the dots. The same boys. The same bathroom, the same cover-up. The silence that once protected them began to unravel thread by thread. Phone records revealed unanswered calls to Principal Hargrove during the attack. Footage confirmed his negligence. By the time the district attorney filed assault charges against 2 of the boys, the school's press statements had gone from defensive to apologetic. The third boy, barely 17, faced juvenile court. Dad's name, though, wasn't cleared so easily. He accepted a misdemeanor plea for property damage, a choice that burned him inside, but he told me, "If it keeps them from twisting this against you, it's worth it." I wanted to argue, but I understood. Sometimes justice demands more than truth. It demands sacrifice, healing, and hope. Therapy became my second home. Ms. Green, my counselor, had a voice that reminded me of early morning sunlight, gentle but steady. She taught me grounding techniques, naming 5 things I could see, 4 I could touch, 3 I could hear. Sounds simple, but on nights when the memories came crawling back, it anchored me. One morning I woke up and realized I'd slept through the night. No nightmares. No shaking. Dad made blueberry pancakes to celebrate, pretending the kitchen smoke was on purpose. For the first time in months, we laughed. The school reached out, offering mediation and to cover my therapy bills, but not a single word of apology. Till I took it as progress. We planted a cherry tree in our backyard that spring. Dad said it was for new beginnings, but I saw it as proof of survival. Every morning I watered it, whispering a silent promise. We made it through. By January, I returned to school part-time. Ms. Carter walked me through the halls the first day, her arms steady near mine. I studied in a quiet room when anxiety crept in. Principal was quietly reassigned to a district desk job, and one of the boys admitted guilt in court. The world didn't turn perfect, but it kept turning. Dad still checks every lock before bed. I still flinch at sudden laughter in hallways. But we're healing in fragments and moments. Him reading by the window, me sketching near the growing cherry tree, the light spilling gently over its branches. 5 lessons I learned. Silence protects no one. The hardest thing I ever did was speak up, but silence would have let them win. No matter how scared you are, your voice matters. Justice isn't instant, it's earned. It's not a movie ending where truth arrives on cue. It's slow, painful, and imperfect, but it's real. Love is louder than shame. My dad's hands bled for me that day, and though the world judged him, his love was my lifeline. Healing is not linear. Some days I feel strong, others I crumble. Both are part of the process. Don't rush yourself. You're more than what happened to you. What they did was a chapter, not my whole story. I'm still writing the rest. If my story touched you, please like, share, or subscribe. Not for me, but for every girl afraid to tell the truth. Every father fighting to protect his child. Every person learning to stand again after the storm. 'Cause healing doesn't begin with forgetting. Begins when someone finally listens.